right in the midst of our 250th celebration programs. So on April 12th, Hugh is not giving a program on the 250th. Instead, he's giving another one of his wonderful granite programs. This one is on granite companies that came and went. And there were many.
Yeah.
He's not going to do them all. But his programs are always well-researched and well-presented. So that's April 12th. Then on April 26th, Pete Ogle is doing one on the enslaved in Westerly.
Wow.
Not Rhode Island, Westerly.
Westerly, wow.
So this will be a very local program. He is an avid researcher and very good documentarian. He really documents everything and has been diving into wills and estates and all kinds of records that will talk about the locally enslaved people. May 2nd is our big open house. Maureen and Hugh and I are slaving away on those exhibits. Brenda has volunteered to do toys and games. It's going to be a glorious explanation of Joshua Babcock's involvement in the Revolutionary War and his son's involvement, as well as a new exhibit in the house. And then the next day, and I think something's wrong here. It says 2 a.m. on the calendar. Don't come at 2 a.m. But the date doesn't look right to me either. The date doesn't look right, so I'll have to check it. But it's the representative from the Gaspee Committee talking about the Gaspee and the role in the Revolutionary War leading up to that. But today, we have a program on early American music, and Peter and his trusty compatriots have done one on Lincoln, and they have chosen one to do on early American music today. I have to say, Peter has researched, arranged, maybe chosen comes next, researched, chosen, and arranged the music for this program today. And he is going to introduce the other two and talk a little bit also about the instrumentation today.
Great. Obviously, you can see we have a brass trio here. And I would like to start by introducing Larry Grefstein, who's playing the trumpet and the cornet. And he will either demonstrate and explain what's going on. Go, Larry.
So most people, including myself, thought that the cornet preceded the valve trumpet. Most people, this is a trumpet and this is the modern instrument that you'll see in most bands. As it turns out, and this is the cornet, you'll notice it's shorter. They're different in this sense. This one has conical tubing. It has a more mellow, less brassy sound than the trumpet does. The trumpet has cylindrical tubing. They were both developed about the same time. The cornet in France around 1820, it was derived, there were horns before this, but they didn't have valves. So the presence of valves allows you to play many more notes chromatically. The trumpet in Germany, a valve trumpet, about the same time, about 1820. The dates aren't clear. Today, in most bands, most people play the trumpet. This is a B-flat trumpet. In most symphony orchestras, they play a C trumpet, which looks like this, except this tube is a little shorter. The reason for that is the transpositions in the music are much easier for the trumpet players. The cornet today is used primarily in the British brass bands. They all use cornets. If you've ever heard or seen a British brass band, in England they're all over the place. It used to be all of the collieries, which are the coal mines. They all had their own bands and everything. And in America, the cornet's used primarily in some of the Dixieland bands who are trying to keep the authenticity of the 20s. It was about in the early 1920s that the switch, Louis Armstrong, for example, originally started on the cornet, and in about the 1920s he switched to the trumpet. So, any questions? I'm going to be playing mostly the cornet because in this room it's much less brassy and it's more pleasing to the ear. There are a couple of numbers that I will play the trumpet on. You'll hear the difference.
This is Ken Rod. He's playing a euphonium, which is a brass instrument that sounds like a trombone or and a baritone horn. Baritone horn, and it's a very beautiful sound. And it's as you will hear as we continue with the program. He's going to demonstrate a few things with that instrument.
Thank you. I am a partially reconstructed trumpet player. For many years I've been interested in playing some of the deeper brass instruments, and a year or so ago I decided to break the bank and go for a high quality Japanese euphonium. Euphonium is Greek for beautiful sound, and it's, in my case, it's a goal rather than something I have actually achieved. The Yamaha Corporation has done something that I don't quite understand what it is, but a combination of structure and alloy in the instrument that with the right mouthpiece, which I came onto by accident one day, it produces a sound that is just out of this world beautiful. When I brought it to the first rehearsal, and Peter wanted to hear what it sounds like, so I picked it up and I played about 3 notes, and he was convinced at that point. He said, all right, I'm going to rearrange all the music we had and for euphonium. The other thing about this instrument, it's heavy. It catches, so I'm not used to playing this standing up, but there is hidden here the 3 valves, just like the cornet and the trumpet, but there's another one here. There's a 4th valve, and when you push this valve down, it reroutes the sound through extra tubing and drops it down by a perfect 4 notes. So instead of playing an F, for example, it would drop it down to a C, and that gives you a low range that I don't know if I'll play it today, but it's really very nice and deep. And let me get you play a note or 2 here. This is the first time I've played this instrument standing up in a year. So
You can sit down. You can sit down.
what's that?
Sit down.
No. This is a test. You ready to grab it? So here's a typical sound. You get an idea of the quality of that sound. That's a combination of the structure here, the mouthpiece, and the unknown quality of the metal being used. Now let me show you what this 4th valve does. And I use the 4th valve a lot, but not for really deep sound. But now the big instrument can go low. Beautiful sound is in the future still. But the 4th valve so I can play a tenor line, and I can also play a bass line on occasion. I go back and forth with whims of the moment, actually, on this. this instrument has given a depth to this trio that we did not have before when I was playing cornet and trumpet like Larry. So I'm gonna stick with this, learn to play a little bit better and see what happens in the future. So that's euphonium.
For those of you who are more familiar with chamber music or orchestral music, the euphonium is the brass equivalent of a cello. A tuba would be the bass. Cornet or the flugelhorn would be like a viola, and the trumpet would be like a violin. To put it in a kind of.
And following up on something that Larry said, I should note that this instrument is not cylindrical, but it's conical. So when he's playing the cornet and Peter is playing his instrument here, that's also conical,
It's a flugelhorn.
we have a completely conical sound coming out. And we hope it sounds good.
So in the brass family, the flugelhorn fits between the trumpet and the French horn, but it's more like, as you can see, it's more like the French horn. So I am at the bottom of the soprano register and the top of the alto register. Well, at the turn of the century, the 20th century, you found this band in bands, like just not marching bands, but like concert bands, brass bands like this in Europe. And in the 20th century, in and around as we're coming out of the Dixieland period into the swing era, this became an instrument of choice for the jazz trumpet players. And I mean, that's what I found out in the 60s when I bought this. And I've never played this in church, and I've never played it, not allowed. And in this group, I'm in the middle of the action at all times. So I'm just going to say, let's sit back and enjoy the music and the wonderful narration created by Ellen Madison.
Based on Peter's research. I know that every single one of you in this room can identify a piece of music that was incredibly, or is incredibly meaningful to you. Whether you were a teenager going to dances, or in church, or your wedding music, music speaks to us and as individuals. It also speaks to nations or countries as a whole. And certain pieces of music will become identified with countries or with movements. And we are going to talk about the variety of music that was found in early America, essentially stopping at about the Revolutionary War, but there'll be a couple of pieces that go beyond that. We are omitting religious music because I suspect that many of you are already familiar with music written during the 1700s. Isaac Watts wrote Joy to the World, for instance, and a lot of other Christian music. Charles Wesley, Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Yeah.
Love divine, all loves excelling. Christ the Lord is risen today. Christmas, Easter, everything under the sun. You find a tremendous contribution by Isaac Watts and Charles Wesley. Other ones, Amazing Grace. Just sang that at a memorial. I don't sing very well, but I participated at a memorial service on Saturday with Amazing Grace. All hail the power of Jesus' name, Rock of Ages. Those hymns have lasted for 2 centuries and more, and we still sing them today. So we are going to focus on 5 different kinds of music. Primarily they served to motivate the troops, to bring America together before the Revolutionary War and during the war. and appealed both to the military and the civilian population. So they are the 5 that we're going to talk about: popular music, patriotic music, very important at that time, maritime music, ballads, and classical music. But don't worry, we're not playing the whole thing. Otherwise you'd be here till 10 o'clock, right? So we're not. Popular music included patriotic anthems like Yankee Doodle, originally a British taunt at those lousy Americans, who, by adopting that as our own, we took away the slur that was intended by it. That happens a lot. We do that today still. We adopt something as our own, and then other people can't hurt us. Maritime music foreshadowed the better-known shanties of the 19th century. Ballads dealt with the emotions, you know, love, romance, separation, and in this case, most of them caused by the loss of people going off to fight in the war or being killed in the war. Classical music connected the country with its European heritage, and remember that these colonists were British. They couldn't get rid of all of their allegiances, and so classical music maintained. No matter what kind it was, it served to unite the people of this country. Popular music. Our program begins with Yankee Doodle, the most popular song at the beginning of the war, and of course, I'm going to ask you to do the lyrics with me for the first stanza. Ready? No, you don't have to sing. Yankee Doodle went to town, riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. I think they passed, don't you?
Yes.
Very good job. Yankee was slang for American. Doodle was a fool or a simpleton, so you can already see that this wasn't very complimentary. A dandy was a British man who wanted to be a member of the aristocracy, and so he spoke like an aristocrat. He dressed like an aristocrat, and part of that was either a wig or a hat with a very long feather in it. So that's where you get the feather in the hat or the feather in the cap. And the British people had given the name of those dandies macaronis.
Huh.
Get it? So it's all set there. By using the term Yankee as part of it, the British were mocking the country bumpkins and saying that they would never be British aristocrats or aristocrats of any kind. Yankee Doodle.
What?
Was that they took tunes that were already known. You know, it's so much easier for us to learn new lyrics and put them to a melody that we already know. And we find that that's a common theme throughout this time period. After Yankee Doodle, the most popular song, and one I had never heard of, was William Billings' Chester. How many of you know Chester? One musician in the okay. Billings was a composer from Boston who had made his name writing sacred music. He was a singing teacher as well as a composer. And Chester is one of the first pieces of original, not borrowed, music that composed specifically to commemorate the events of the Revolutionary War. The tune tune of Chester. Another paragraph here. Which Billings had originally composed as a tune for psalms, and that was what early religious music in this country was primarily at the beginning of the 1700s, was tunes that were composed to set psalms to. But he republished it in 1778 with brand new lyrics, and they combined the elements. There was a religious fervor that said that the revolution was really a holy crusade, so you can see that the religious influence coming in here to his music. Chester.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Early patriotic music. Sometimes there's an overlap here, obviously, and this is one of those cases. Free America is the title of this song, and it was put to the tune of a piece of music called the British Grenadiers, so you can tell that it came from England. That was a traditional British march, but the new lyrics appealed to the volunteer soldiers in America and got them all psyched to go out and fight and form a new country. To quote, to believe in the revolution is to believe in possibility, was part of the message that Dr. John Warren included in this, and he was, of course, later killed at Bunker Hill. But that which had originally belonged to the enemy was transformed into a patriotic call to form a new country. Free America. Repurposed it for a song espousing liberty. The tune that they borrowed was called Heart of Oaks, which was the official anthem of the British Royal Navy. Nothing like taking the best, right? And he introduced the famous motto, quote, "By uniting we stand, by dividing we fall." And within 3 weeks of its initial publication, it was extremely popular. The Liberty Song. Maritime music. I am sure that maritime music has existed since people got in a boat of any kind to go out. Rowing, paddling, whatever it is, you need that rhythm, you need that music. And during the colonial period, sailors sang or chanted work songs, just like any other time, and sang ballads. We are more familiar probably with sea shanties as maritime music, and the music during the Revolution was probably precursors to the sea shanties of the 1800s, with which we are more familiar. So we're thinking about precursors to the shanties as a way to think of this. So derived from an Irish folk song, this next tune was a precursor to What Shall We Do with a Drunken Sailor? Used by sailors, to fit the rhythm of their work with practically obscene lyrics, no matter which version you're looking at, so we're not going to use those. Notice we haven't used lyrics with any of these. It became a popular, what we call a call and response. So there was this call, what are we going to do with a drunken sailor? And then there was the answer, and then the repetition of what are we going to do with a drunken sailor, and then the answer. And at each of those, they'd be hoisting sails or bringing up the anchor or doing something like that. And as I said, the words to the later shanty, not good for today's performance. What shall we do with a drunken sailor? Was a maritime ballad, usually not sung while the sailors were at sea because they risked being accused of mutiny. And the captain had that prerogative if he overheard or could hear somebody making derogatory comments about his job or about himself. So due to the lyrics of this song, same thing, it was used at the end of a voyage when the ship was safely in port and the crew could not fear any retribution from the captain. Leave her, Johnny.
1, 2.
Ballads. Back to the romance, love, separation, and so forth. The Girl I Left Behind was a song that was shared by both the British and the Americans. It was likely from 16th century Irish or English in terms of the tune, and it was both part of the military and folk traditions of both countries. Was often associated with soldiers and sailors departing for war, and focuses, of course, on the melancholy of leaving a loved one. The Girl I Left Behind.
2.
One of the most enduring ballads in the English language. It was a popular song widely sung by both soldiers and civilians. It tells the tragic story of Sweet William on his deathbed. I'm gonna cry. With Barbara hovering over him. He, of course, wants to marry her. She rejects him based on some previous slight. He dies. She realizes what a mistake she's made. Dies a little while afterward of remorse. They bury them side by side. The rose grows from his grave, the briar from her grave. And they entwine, making the perfect lover's knot. I didn't mean to make you laugh, I meant to make you cry. Barbara Allen.
2.
elements attack really on the celebration of Christmas. According to American legend, the British Army band was forced to play this at the surrender in Yorktown in 1781. Can you imagine the humiliation? It symbolized a monumental shift of global power. And indeed, the world had been turned upside down by an untrained, ragtag colonial army. The world turned upside down. Was a 1775 pastoral song composed by John Tate. This one has an interesting development. It was sung first as a ballad, and then later on at a faster tempo as a dance tune in both England and in the colonies. The ballad focuses on a lover's tearful departing by the banks of the River Dee in Scotland, as her loved one departs for the American War. Music, the ballad first.
Right. 1, 2.
It was played as a jig, which the dictionary defines as a lively dance with leaping movements. So if any of you would like to leap around the room while they're playing, you'd be fine. Their dance version had a new set of lyrics by Thomas Moore. So here's the dance as a jig version of The Bank of the Dee.
1, 2, 1.
was looking forward to those things. But the music was still influenced by European music. Classical music was probably not heard in concert halls as we sometimes think of attending the symphony. It was more likely played in a home, a nice home, where people had gathered for a soiree, an evening of conversation and music. The typical instruments that would have been used would have included strings, woodwinds, voices, and of course a keyboard. So here are two excerpts from compositions by Mozart, Andante and Petite Trio.
This was a planned rest.
During rehearsal, I was busy helping somebody bring in a spinning wheel, and I came back, and when they stopped playing, I immediately went into my next field, and they said, "No, wait, we haven't done a Petite Trio yet." And I was like,
Okay.
Petite Trio.
One, two, three.
It's only fitting that we conclude with a song which, for the first time, that made a major impact, was composed by an American, both the music and the lyrics. And this song became incredibly important. Hail Columbia. The song was originally known as the President's March, which was the name of the original music written in 1789, which was the year that George Washington was inaugurated, by Philip Fyle, and the lyrics were written in the same year by Joseph Hopkinson, not Hopkinson, but Hopkinson, for the presidential inauguration of George Washington. The purpose of this song was to raise the spirits and celebrate and rally around Washington, who was going to take this new nation to a place of prominence and safety and peace after this turmoil. Adopted by common consent as one of several national anthems, it remained that way until 1831, when the Star-Spangled Banner was formally accepted as the national anthem. That was in 1931, so it lasted for a long time. And today, Hail Columbia is still used as the official music to honor the Vice President. Hail Columbia.
1, 2, 3.